ASU regular meeting for September. We have agenda items. One is public comments, 2 finance and operations related, proposals for 2 paraprofessionals for Arlington, proposal for occupational therapist to be posted. The consent agenda, there are no policies tonight. Superintendent's report is item 7. Item 8 is the chair's report. 9 is other business that might be brought before this board, and there's 2 items for your information included. Is this agenda satisfactory to the board members?
Yes.
Yep. Yes. If I hear of no changes, then we'll go ahead with public comments. Do we have members of the public?
You have someone with their hand up right here.
Tammy Massengill.
Hi. My name's Tammy Massengill. I'm a teacher at Molly Stark. I'm here representing the SWVEA as the liaison to the Vermont NEA Healthcare Council. Negotiations over the next statewide health insurance agreement for Vermont's public school employees has been ongoing since April. And I'm here to give you an update on those negotiations. After intense negotiations and arbitration, the 2 sides were not able to reach a settlement. Binding arbitration will take place in November, and the decision will be forthcoming in December. The VSBA is proposing quadrupling out-of-pocket costs for teachers and quintupling the costs for support staff. Insurance is a strong recruitment tool to attract and retain school personnel. We feel that the VSBA proposal will have the opposite effect on that. The VSBA board needs to hear from you about the impacts of the higher costs that insurance will have on you, meaning the district. We call on you to join us in supporting the work for the newly formed Legislative Joint Healthcare Affordability Study Commission. That's a mouthful. This commission is exploring creative policy options for improving healthcare affordability statewide. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I see Joe and Sherry Barber.
Muted, so I don't know if they wish to address the board or not.
See no other public.
Yeah, you got Charlotte had her hand up.
Who?
Who was
Charlotte,
that?
Charlotte had her hand up, and she just was just.
Shayla?
Me? I
Yes,
didn't have my hand up.
Okay.
I think she was reaching for something.
Okay.
must been.
No other public comments? Unless Joe and Sherry Barber can unmute. And it appears not. So we'll move on to finance and operations related. We have a treasurer's report for August 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Second it.
Motion from Fran, second from Leon. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. The treasurer's report is accepted. Item 3, we have a proposal for 2 new paraprofessionals at Arlington School District. I have them in front of me here. I don't know if you want to do further explanation on that, Jeff.
Bill is here. If you have, this is at his request. Bill Bailey.
There's Bill.
So,
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Bill.
Does the chair request me to speak a little bit about this?
If you would.
Sure, yeah. I always enjoy talking about special education, and especially up in Arlington, where we've had a lot of success over the last couple of years providing services to students. One of the reasons for our success has been how nimble and quick we've been able to act. We are a smaller district, as you know, only servicing about 85 special ed students. So when we do up our service plans in the fall, we can pretty much hone down and get them very accurate. Obviously, compared to the SVSU, which is a much larger organization, there's more coming and going. This year, we just had, post-COVID, which is kind of not really saying so much anymore. I guess we're still in COVID, but post-COVID planning, we've had an influx of students come in that we were not expecting. And certainly we want to provide for all our learners. We've had a large amount of just a general influx of students, and our population is up. But we did have a much larger influence of special ed students this year, specifically about 10 high needs students that we did not plan for, which is that's very, very significant for a school system like Arlington. So we've actually done a really good job of shifting some staff around, but we are going to request 2 more paraprofessionals, and you'll see the second request is an OT that was previously 0.6 before the pandemic, and then bring that person back up to 0.6, went down to 0.4. And we'll see what happens. We are very in a good position right now. We are only going to hire one of the paras right now, and we're going to, because of such things are in such flux, we may or may not hire the second one, but we did want to have it kind of ready to go if we need to hire because of student need. And but these are going to go right to direct services to students and students of high needs, and I feel very comfortable recommending this.
There are 2 different proposals, so is there a motion regarding the 2 new paraprofessionals for Arlington School District?
They,
We have a motion from Ray.
Second.
I'll second.
Yeah. Is there discussion?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just trying to make sure I was clear. We're going from 0.4 to 0.6 FTE on one position. Is
That's
that
the other,
correct?
that's the other issue, Leon.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I pull up the wrong one then, I guess. Okay, then if these the 2 people, yes, I have no other question.
Other discussion?
Yeah.
Right.
What is the 10 new people, new children with high needs? Did they just move into the district, or why weren't you aware of them before?
Yeah, they did just move in the district. We had some that moved in during the summer, so we already started the planning. But generally, yes, these are all students we did not plan for. It was something that hasn't happened in my 7 years here, and I do think it was had a lot to do. There's a couple of factors. One, I think it definitely had to do with post-COVID, and also it had to do with up here a little further north, and Bennington's probably not exempt from this. We are going through a little bit of a housing crunch, and a few of these students, and many of the students too that we new to our district are moving in with either grandparents, aunts, uncles, and so on and so forth. So I would probably put it on those 2 factors, but yeah, these are new students we did not anticipate until July.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Jackie.
Well, I was wondering, are they incoming with IEPs, or are there IEPs pending?
That's a great question, Jackie. Well, in special education in Vermont, so far we have, I want to say 6 of these are from out of state. It could be higher. So as you know that, or maybe you don't, that when they come from out of state, we have to go with that current IEP, and then we have to do a reevaluation on them. So we are going through that process right now, which is, certainly complicated matters. But yeah, 6 of those students were, and don't quote me on that, but it could be 6 or 7, but we're from out of state. So it is definitely something that we're cognizant of.
Other discussion? All those in favor of approving the two new paraprofessionals for Arlington School District, signify by saying aye. All those
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And the motion carries to approve two new paraprofessionals for Arlington. Item 4 is the occupational therapist increase from 0.4 to 0.6. And
So moved. I'll move it.
Second.
we have a motion from Leon, second from Scott. Discussion.
Would the chair like me to speak on that as well?
You may have already done that, but you're
That's
welcome to, Bill.
Okay, well, anyways, this was, person was 0.6 pre-pandemic. And then as we switched and did some remote stuff and everything, that person moved down to 0.4 last year, and we're just bringing that person back to 0.6 with the influx of new students.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the increase from 0.4 to 0.6?
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion from Ray, second from Fran.
Yep.
All those in favor signify by saying
You already
aye.
had.
Didn't
you had
we already do
in a
that?
Second.
Yes,
Good.
yes.
It's been moved twice now.
Well, sorry.
Vote on it twice.
Well,
Moving along.
We didn't,
But we haven't
we
voted
didn't
on
vote on
this,
this.
So we have a motion on the
So we were
floor
just discussing.
and we've had discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries to increase the paraprofessional position to, special
Occupational therapy.
occupational
Okay.
therapist. There we go. I got the wrong sheet of paper from 0.4 to 0.6. Motion carries. The consent agenda is item 5. Includes minutes, warrants, leave of absence, retirements, resignations, and nominations.
I'll move it.
We have a motion from Fran,
Second it.
second from Ray. Discussion. I actually had a question here, if I can get organized. Included in the nominations, if I'm not mistaken, were new positions for ESSER 2 grants.
Yes.
My only question is, how long these grants last and what happens to these positions once the grants expire?
They are grant funded positions, and particularly with support staff. The position may go away, whether the individual then goes into an open position would remain to be seen. If there are openings, they certainly would be eligible to apply for them. In some of these positions, we hope to demonstrate need that they may have to be moved into the budget as we go further down the line. But that's a few years away before that would happen.
A few years.
It's 2 to 3 years on the funding.
Okay.
That was the only question I had. Other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? No abstentions? Motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. There are no policies this evening. That moves us to the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone, present and by Zoom. I want to thank the chair for asking me, who's that? And that reminds me that there's a new person joining us. Our Associate Director for Student Services, Lisa Johnson. Lisa, want to give us a little wave? So she's joining us this year. She just recently came. Hate to put you on the spot, Lisa, but without warning, how about a little introduction to the board? Well, you're a teacher. We can all speak.
Sure.
Okay, well, I'm super excited to be here at the SVSU. I came here from Texas, and so I'm kind of wrapping my head around the differences between Vermont and Texas. You'd be surprised how many there are. And I was a special education teacher before I became a dyslexia specialist. Then I became an educational diagnostician, and then moved into leadership roles for the past several years. So excited to be here to support the kids in the SBSU.
So we have a board member present here who's originally from Texas also. So
No way, who?
Ray Melino,
What part?
I am.
Texas?
Yeah.
did you hear her, Ray? What part?
Oh, I was born in San Antonio and grew up in Austin.
Oh, great. I was born in Houston and lived in Dallas before I moved here.
Well, thank you for letting me put you on the spot like that, Lisa, without a warning that I was going to ask you to talk about yourself, but welcome.
No worries, thank you.
The bulk of my report tonight is going to be on the IT service proposal, and we'll get to that in a minute, but a couple of housekeeping things I want to first talk to you about. You know, we did a welcome back tour. We could not do our annual welcome back, put all the staff and teachers into the auditorium at the high school and do a welcome back presentation. Decided, as I mentioned before, not the best thing to do in the time of COVID. So we did a central office welcome back bus tour and went to 10 of the buildings of the SU, but 2 we didn't get to until this week. And that was in Arlington because of a tropical storm that impacted our tour, and then some COVID outbreak cases that was thought best that we didn't go there. So we were there on Monday with a meet and greet with the staff there from as many people from central office who were available to go, so that the employees from Arlington could put faces to the names that have been seen from emails from central office. So, and we're going to continue doing events like that as we go through this transition year and we all get to know each other. Not even 2 hours ago, we received new guidance from AOE on contact tracing, which has been a very difficult task. And you've heard me mention this before. I can't thank our school nurses enough, and for all the work that they've been doing when we have a positive case, and then they have to contact trace and then consult with the Board of Health for who needs to quarantine. It appears the guidance is going to shift for populations that are eligible for vaccination. And like I said, literally 2 hours ago, so I haven't completely digested yet, but Ashley Walker, our COVID-19 coordinator, is going to work on that. And then we will meet tomorrow and see what changes that may take a lot of that workload off, and maybe not result in how many people have had to quarantine. So I'm hopeful that there are changes coming for that. And obviously, under 12 years old, vaccination is not available. So nothing will change with our pre-K through 12-year-olds, with 11 actually. Last week, we had our first equity speaker in our SVSU speaker series, well attended by Zoom. Many board members showed up too. I thought the event, I enjoyed the speaker, and I'm looking forward to the speaker series continuing. There'll be one every month. I will continue to send reminders to board members that takes place. The theme this year for us is a study of equity, as you know. And yesterday was the first meeting of the Equity Advisory Committee, which we have had, but it's been rebooted this year now that we have Jonathan Phipps, our equity coordinator. So he facilitated that yesterday afternoon. And I think a lot of good work and knowledge is going to come from that. It certainly is enlightening me as an individual. And that's the first time we used an outside moderator to move the meeting along. And I also think that went well. So we're into the routine of school. We're approaching October with fingers crossed that we'll see a downward trend in the amount of positive cases that we really saw with the start of school, that at one point had a large number of students in quarantine. We never hit the number that we would have less than 50% in any one school, which would a trip that school wouldn't have counted. There were issues when we had to cancel school one day for one school because we did not have contact tracing completed in time for school to open safely. And safety is the most important thing for us. We have, at last month's meeting, we had concerns about busing. The administration, particularly Renee Gordon's office and Dufour, and our principals have worked to try to alleviate that. I think the buses are by and large running on their proposed schedule times now, which was not the case when we first started. Because let's remember, it's been a long time since we ran those regular bus schedules, and there were definitely some kinks that needed to be worked out because of the different busing that was run during COVID. So I want to thank, particularly Renee and Amanda, our principals, and Dufour Transportation for continuing to work daily, and the tech office, because they are the manager of that software for our bus routes. Without them continuing to plug away at problems, I don't think we'd be where we were. So I commend them for that. Any questions from the board before I move into information technology? Anything that I didn't address? No? So longtime employee Frank Barnes is retiring, and his last day is coming at the end of this month. And Frank has transformed that department from the start of independent computer labs where teachers would go take their students to go to a computer lab and use a computer, and he spearheaded the drive to bring us to one-for-one devices for all our students, which if that did not happen, I think our delivery of education during COVID would have been even more difficult than it was. We were already positioned for that our students had access, every student had access to a device. And now we're at the point that every student who wants one is access to a device at school and a device at home if they want one, a Chromebook at home. It is really transforming what we've done and how we deliver education. But I also think it's time for the next step. And when I huddled with HR Director Nick Galt, and we looked at what salaries may be to hire an IT director, and we doubted whether we were going to able to achieve that. There's a lot of competition for people with that skill set. And honestly, I talk a little about that transformation that took place during Frank's time. We have a director of curriculum instruction and assessment that Melissa, that has really integrated technology into how our teachers use it. It's not standalone. And we make the assumption that every teacher, every employee is using technology. So the game has changed. And I feel it's time that one way that we can address that is to take Frank's position and hire a IT company to come in and present us with a director of information technology. And then we would also have a real more extensive depth of backup. We're not just, we can use a resource that we don't currently have. And this is not a comment about our current staff. They do a tremendous job. They did a tremendous amount of work during COVID to get devices out there, but I see it as an expansion of services in an economical model. So I asked Adam Scissor from Scissor IT to come. I sent you the proposal. I have some hard copies here if you want a proposal to effectively hire their company to be our IT director. Our employees all remain the same, all do their job. It's just we replace Frank rather than going through a hiring process and looking for what we use. A company that already has experience providing services to schools and municipalities. And I'm going to stop there and introduce Adam Scissor. Welcome to the board.
Hey everyone, you guys can hear me okay virtually, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So my name's Adam. I founded Scissor IT with the goal of streamlining technology in education. Before I started the business, I worked in an in-house IT department where I later transitioned to being the director of IT for a regional IT department on the municipal side. And one thing became very clear to me, and that's that these rural towns and rural schools really don't have the resources to appropriately start tackling some of the aggressive changes that are coming with technology, which is what we saw during COVID. From what I've seen, I've actually been meeting with like Frank and the team here for the past couple of months, and it looks like your team did a pretty good job. But as Jim was saying, now transitioning when someone leaves the team, where does that leave the school? And a lot of these highly qualified people are leaving to go to the city or work in the corporate world where they're in very high demand. So I created Scissor IT, solely focused on servicing K-12 schools and rural towns. We really focus on rural, so all the schools that we work in are in rural areas throughout Western and Central Massachusetts. But we really built a model that's supposed to save the superintendent administration time from having to think about like technology problems. One of the things that I think became evident during COVID with the schools we serve is the superintendents came to us and said, like, we didn't even have to think about tech. So perfect example would be like this transition now. Jim and the admin team would have to spend time going and interviewing people and trying to find people and going through that process, where we've really focused on offering a model where that's our job, and where our job is to make sure that the direction of the district is heading in the right way. We're seeing this stuff in other districts. So if when you guys run into a problem, odds are we've already seen that problem somewhere else, and we already found the solution and the shortcut to get around that problem. With you guys, because of the size and the existing team, we have two models that we run. We either A, become the school's entire tech department, that's with smaller school districts, or B, we come in as what I call our hybrid tech department, which is where we come in to support the existing staff and act as like that tech director type role. We assign a tech director to your school who shows up here, just as your past tech director did, sits down, comes to these meetings when needed for reports, works with the superintendent, administration, but then also works with the existing tech team to lead and guide the school district into the tech-facing future. So we put together two proposals for you guys. One is straight just tech director, and the other is enhancing and kind of giving you.
And I will throw, it's proposal number 2 that I want to propose to the board. I think that is the more dramatic change in how we deliver services, particularly. And I know that our administrators that saw Adam's presentation were pretty excited about that option. So if you could speak more to option 2.
So proposal number 2 really would be us coming in as the tech director, but then also giving the school access to what I call internally our shared services team. And these are industry experts that we share across our teams, because when we build teams, we build them like specialized to that region. That way there you become familiar with the same friendly faces. So our shared services team would be, so if the school district runs into like a security incident, rather than your current tech team taking the time to find a company to call, we already have somebody on our team who we can just call and they'll jump right on it and start taking care of it. So it really starts, again, I've been hyper focused on student experience and teacher experience. And the faster you can address these issues, the better the experience students and teachers have. Another thing that comes part of the shared services is our tier 1, like help desk type services. So with that, the most exciting feature of that is the virtual office. And that's literally a place that, let's say technology stops working in the classroom, or it's after school and a student's having trouble getting into their Chromebook. They can literally go to our website, click a button, and get a live person over video and start talking to us. And then we can work with them to address their tech issue. That's open from 7 to 6. So it kind of extends support past the school day to help students when they transition to home. If something's not working on their Chromebook, we have a live person over video that can work with them. And then on the other end, parents, we find prefer texting. So our tier 1 help desk also gives parents the option of being able to text in and ask for tech help. And among other, calling, email, but the 2 popular ones that we have are texting and that virtual office. But really proposal 2 is that tech director and then additional services as they're needed. So if it comes time to replace the infrastructure in the building, which from what I've seen, that is up and coming, the school doesn't have to go through like an engineering process. We'll have someone from our team who's does this on a regular basis, sit down with the school's tech department and go through that process and guide them. So it really starts saving time and resources. And then also gives the current tech team someone to lean on for challenges that they're not facing every day.
I asked Renee to join us because she's going to explain to you how we would pay for this proposal.
Sure. So I strictly looked at just our IT director salary and benefits line. And actually, before I even get there, if I back up 1 second. So the proposals that you have in front of you, if you notice, they were spanning from October 1st through September. Adam has agreed that so we can keep things clean with our fiscal years, that we could prorate that. So the cost for option 1 would be $97,500. Option 2 would then scale back to $131,250. But again, so taking that $131,250 comparatively to what we have remaining in the IT director budget, we'd be short by about $18,900. Now, that is exclusive of looking for breakage anywhere else in the budget, which I'm confident we will have in other places. But the other thing that I think we need to consider is we could, as time goes on, probably find that we have some duplication of services that we already have that we might be able to reduce and then see some savings there as well. So that's it from the number standpoint.
And the duplication of services, Adam, you were talking like things like firewalls, and you had some other examples.
That typically happens. So when we go into a district, usually it's the tech team, and then they're relying on all these different parties. And that's like what we're trying to get rid of. So it's like the tech team is equipped to handle it. So you're most likely paying other vendors already to do installs or manage firewalls, or there's a bunch of different services that fall within tech. You're most likely already paying that will be covered in our proposal.
I do like that this is, I don't really consider this an experiment. I'm excited about the option and what this does for us, but it is a 1-year contract prorated, which gives us the opportunity to evaluate how this is working, how it's working for our system, and then make a determination whether we want to continue on. Because if we're not, we always have the option to go ahead and advertise and try and fill the position if we aren't happy with the services being provided.
Right. So why don't we have someone from our current tech department to talk to us about this at the same time?
They have already met with Adam, and so I will say this, typically, we don't ask the outgoing, you don't ask the outgoing superintendent what you think about hiring the new superintendent. So I tried to, they met with them. I've met with members of the tech department, but I am trying to make this independent of that. So I did, Frank has met with them, Frank has consulted with them, but as the outgoing director, we wouldn't normally involve them in making the decision making. And
Well, it doesn't have to be Frank, it could be people in the, underneath them that is working tech department at higher level, to comment on how they take the proposal.
So you're not, oh, I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
I'm not entirely certain I understand the usage of services, the number of hours and how they supply the personnel for all this. Myself, it's not clear to me how that works out. So, I'm not opposed to it exactly. I'm just,
Adam, could you address that? Really,
clear.
there is going to be somebody physically here.
Yeah, so there'll still be someone physically here. What we do is we share people, right? So like, that's really what it comes down to. So in that proposal, like I calculate that you're gonna need so much time of like a security person or so much time of a network person. But the way we also do it with schools is it's flat rate. So if we mess up and like you guys have like a huge security incident and we lost that year. It's kind of like a plowing contract where you win, like the plowing company wins sometimes, then the school wins sometimes based on the weather. But from the tech director front, we've streamlined a lot of things. Like there's a lot of functions that your tech director is doing now that we have shared across a few tech directors. So that way their time is freed up to focus on other things. But you would have a tech director and then an assistant tech director is the model that we picked to go with for you guys because of how you're set up. But the tech director is shared across other districts. So while they're sitting here, they may be hopping on a video call with another superintendent.
They're physically here, or this is virtual?
Yep, there'll be someone physically here.
But they deal not just with this supervisory unit, but other systems.
Correct, which is why for this, especially, and it is looking at this in a pilot way of like evaluating and saying like what, because you guys are a unique district or union where you are vast and there's a lot of buildings. Yeah. So going into this, that's why I elected to do the 2 assistant and the tech director in case we completely underestimated.
And during this year, we also would have to analyze how Arlington, what services Arlington would be getting from Scissor IT, how we would handle. They haven't had a chance to go to Arlington and evaluate and spend time with their department yet, but they did meet with the tech department here. Adam's been and met with the administration here.
As you looked at our system so far, I guess I'm waiting for the equipment shoe to drop. What else are we going to need, or what happens if you go to a point dealing with a problem and say, well, you've got to have this added to your system in order for us to be able to do our job? I realize that's an extreme statement.
So I would say it's going to be the same thing that happens now, because we don't buy equipment out of Frank's salary. We would buy that out of equipment different line item. So I really see this as we're taking Frank's salary and converting, rather than hiring a new IT director. And Frank was not an IT director. He was the director of education technology. It was a different position, which when I go back to the marriage of technology to curriculum, that's why Melissa Senecal is going to pick up more of that part of the position, where this is going to be strictly dealing with the technology side of the position and bring it back to an IT director.
and I can ask that, we don't sell hardware or software to schools. We only do services, and that's it. And it's literally, I created this out of frustration of how in-house IT was functioning, in the sense of like, when we had an incident, it was like, okay, now we have to find a vendor, call them, and get support. Where I've taken a lot of those issues and created them into like one package, so we can literally, like, we know who we're calling when the school's getting hacked, or when whatever, you get ransomware. What do we do? It's not freak out, we're gonna find a vendor. It's no, we're calling Marco and he's gonna work with us on this. And second, like, the other thing is, a lot of times tech departments, and it's because of how they've like organically grown, but we also look at things from like a business operations perspective too. Because when you're doing that tech director type stuff, you're dealing with a lot of capital. So one of the things that, like, I'm going through a new building construction right now in the school. And it's in Massachusetts, and they have a $1.8 million tech budget for the new building. And I sat down with the director of finance, the principal, and the superintendent, and I said, 1.8 million, we need to replace this stuff in 10 years. Can we increase the tech budget by $180,000? And they said, no way. I said, well, what can you afford? And then they said 70,000. So now that 1.8 million, we're like, well, hey, new building, we can't afford that. We can't afford to maintain the equipment. So I guess what I'm getting at is like, well, like, we try to work with you as if we are a department head, and go through that process with the school and find something that works for you. But also cautioning and making sure that you're not building a new building, putting in 1.8 million of equipment that you're not going to be able to afford to replace or maintain for the next 5-10 years. Because that is one of the things unique with school, with technology, is that this stuff has to be replaced. There's expiration dates, and so when you decide to go one-to-one, we would have sat down with you and had a conversation and said, okay, well, the tech budget needs to reflect that, because and how are we going to maintain and replace that? Maybe year one it doesn't, because you use grant funds to buy it, but year two, that line better start catching up to what it needs to be for when it's time to start replacing those devices. So I don't know if that fully answers your question on like the hardware side, but like, we would come in and look at everything and be like, all right, this is 15 years old, and it really shouldn't have gone past 10 years. So we need to start looking at either A, downsizing it to something that the school can afford to maintain and support, or B, shifting resources in the budget to support that. And we'll look everywhere. Like, I got a school that couldn't afford their one-to-one program, so we looked at printing. They were spending more in printing than they would have spent on their one-to-one program. So we built a 5-year plan where the budgets started. So like, we were cutting the printing budget, and then that way there we had money for the one-to-one program. But looking at things of shifting, that's our philosophy. Like, on the tech director front, is like really looking at money as a resource. Where is it going? Because it's always better spent on the classroom and educating kids. So making sure that tech's not overspending in areas, and that we're supporting the classroom in a way that's effective for teaching and learning.
So you're going to have to interface with Melissa quite a lot, because the role that we're replacing is a person who was doing that tech part of the job, and then supervising the people who maintain the system. You're going to maintain the system, or at least oversee the maintenance of the system, and plan for its future to expand, to take in the tasks that have to be thought about doing over the next 10 years. And those tasks are going to be generated in part by the educational use of the technology. So
Melissa already is highly integrated with the tech department. That has been her second home. So I look at this, I had two options. I could have posted to replace Frank and see what I got, and hope that their resume said that they are what they are, or I could go with the company that I know from other superintendents I've talked to that can provide the services exclusively to schools. And again, I like Adam's term that I look at this as a pilot or experiment. And he can analyze us and we can analyze him. But whoever that is that's here in this building, it's not like, well, I don't know, maybe they'll be wearing a Scissor IT t-shirt like that would identify them. But they really are integrated into our department that to the outside observer, you wouldn't be able to tell that they weren't our employee, that they were a contracted service. And that's the ultimate goal, so that I can get instant experience and qualified people.
Right.
And go to a seamless transition, or as seamless as possible as any transition. There's always going to be bumps with, someone who's been with us this long leaves, and we might have forgotten a few things that Frank did do that we didn't know that he did. And but I think I have every confidence that, and I just know the excitement from the presentation that the administrators that are particularly around the virtual help desk, that another tool that our teachers can use so that they can keep teaching if their technology goes down.
Right. And there seems to be ever increasing need for that.
Yeah.
Leon?
Yes. I take my hand down now. What markers are we going to have in place to evaluate the effectiveness of the system? I don't want to wait until say, it's one year. I want to know how we're going to be doing with things at some point. Is there a set time in terms of markers, and what kind of information that we're going to be looking at to be able to determine near the end of the year whether we're going to continue with this or whether we're going to do something else, as opposed to a feeling or something. So what do we got in place out there for that?
Well, that's a good question. I don't have anything formally put together, but your point is valid that there has to be some type of an assessment tool. Unless, Adam, have you used that with your other municipalities or schools?
Yeah, so we have metrics and reporting on the performance of the tech department from a problem ticket, move, add. We categorize things into 3 categories: problem ticket, move, add, change, and then project. So we do have reporting on all of that, and that's something that I would expect to be sitting down with the building principals, superintendent, administration to make sure that we're meeting those deliverables. And then we also have our blanket, what we call service level commitments, which is saying we're committed to solving this problem within this time frame based on its level of urgency. So we have templates for all that stuff. And then what would happen is, first quarter, we'd sit down, it's like, here's the metrics and here's where we're seeing where it needs improvement, because it's also looking at the existing systems that are in place. So we would come to you with a list of here's what needs improvement and here's how we're going to move forward and improve that. Whether that's, there's way too many Chromebooks breaking, and that's because it's this brand Chromebook or this brand Chromebook breaks less, or whatever. But we have a blanket metrics that we would come to you guys with and we would be reporting on. But then also, as we develop the relationship, there may be other things that you guys want data on and markers to determine the performance of not just us, but the tech department as a whole. So you know that they're being effective with helping teachers and students.
So just like we evaluate our employees, when sounds like we need to put an evaluation model, minimum of quarterly meetings, we're going to get a quarterly report from you. And then we present that to the board.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yep.
It sounds like something's got to come to the board. I mean, you said we're going to meet with the principals and so forth along this line, but the board's going to we're making this decision here tonight. We're going to be making that decision later on. And so these reports and this information as to how effective we are in you managing all of these things, we need to hear before the last minute. And the quarterly reports of certain things we can then start to look at and understand in depth what it is that's going on and taking place, and we'll be able to determine ahead of time that we're on the right track for doing things and prepare.
Jackie?
Yes, I have 4 questions, and well, I never got this proposal. I just looked back in all my paperwork from Naomi. I didn't receive it. I looked under Jim's name. I didn't receive it. So this is all brand new to me. However, on the other
Becky, you
hand,
didn't get my email on Monday? Or
no, I
yesterday?
didn't.
No.
No, but on the other hand, I fully understand, because I had a similar position in my last job, and I fully understand the separation of curriculum with tech and with I call them the machines, the hardware, and this is a vital thing to do at this time and age, and I fully support it. But the questions that I have is, was there a needs assessment done, or did the company do the needs assessment? The next thing, how would computer updates to personnel machines be done? In other words, would the teacher just leave it on their desk overnight and the updates would come through that way? And the 2 other questions were, what about, I'm teaching a lesson and everything goes up for grabs. I mean, I was at Molly Stark helping as a volunteer 3 years ago, and things went bump in the night all the time. And I know you couldn't solve that immediately, but now that the tech and educational parts are separated, then I would think that there would be a more immediate response to that. The next question is, I think you already went over the fact that you would evaluate all the current hardware that we have. But what about the people who are now so-called on the part of the team that was established a couple of years ago? Would these members be switched over to the education part? Or would these teachers not be able to continue?
So the tech staff remains in place. It's the director of the department is what we're contracting out for. So those resources in the individual buildings will still be there. And the other question, Jackie,
I know I asked too many. So sorry.
yes.
Well, I was worried about updates. Updates today can happen overnight. I leave my machine overnight at home or wherever, and it's updated. It's a magic.
So I'll go back to my first response. There is still a tech person from the tech department in that building that could assist and help with that, but with direction from Scissor IT that, I'm hoping maybe they can come up with a way that we can streamline that process too. So I think the key thing to remember is the resources that we currently have will still be there, but we're going to hopefully enhance them and give another way for staff to get technical assistance. And as far as doing, hardware analysis and replacement scenarios, that has happened in our department, but it will be ongoing. Adam and I have had discussions about servers, among other things, and the maintenance of servers, and how we may handle that replacement or the direction that we go, with that. So I have no reason to believe that those type of conversations are going to change, and that just like I asked Frank for reports on that, I would be asking Scissor IT to give me reports on updates. And when we go to budget season and Renee meets with the department chairs about what equipment is you seem to need, what your budget is, that the meeting would be with someone, the IT director that Scissor IT provided, as opposed to Frank, and they would be asked those same questions to build as they build their budget for the following year. And long-range planning too. That's the crucial part of that. Give me a 5-year plan and beyond.
So in other words, you did not do a analysis of a needs assessment. You're going to do that post.
Well, no, I did not do a needs assessment because the need is, I believe, demonstrated. Frank is retiring and I need a director of IT. So that's, I think that was pretty self-evident, but as far as, so is that, I don't know what you mean by a needs assessment for.
Well, for instance, okay, do you need a director as opposed to, do you need curriculum people who do tech and then an IT guy or woman who would do the hardware type of things? That's the needs assessment, a simple one, but it's a needs assessment. But you know, don't get me wrong, I'm fully supporting this. Yeah. And it's exactly what the tech center did, you know, the Southwest Tech Center did maybe 4 or 5 years ago. They turned it over to the company.
Yeah.
So it's a vital thing to have, because especially when there's a high school involved, because the kids do things that are we won't even get into that anyway.
And that's why I feel I need as strong of IT support. I'm less worried about the curriculum support, because you know we've had the position of director of curriculum instruction and assessment, and as I said, Melissa has been, and our assistant superintendent, who have both worked closely with the tech department to integrate how our teachers use technology and the professional learning that goes on in this supervisory union for technology. So I'm confident that that is fully covered. I want to enhance the technology services part of it and concentrate on that.
Right? Yeah.
I'd like to make the motion, and if there's no more questions, I'd like to make the motion that we.
I have a question. Sorry. Is your business model to take these on a temporary basis and to put yourself out of business for the particular context of the system that you come in to help? No, I thought I heard language at the beginning that about defining the tech director's role and looking for a replacement, but is that correct?
I mean, I want to be here for the long run, right? So like we're here for to build a long-term relationship. I think
That's what I want.
I think that's what best serves everybody, but also.
I'm glad you asked that question, because I hope you're committed to
To me, that's kind of key, whether this is an interim consultant that's looking for a replacement or whether this is potentially permanent.
No, we're here for the long run, and it's like that's my passion is making the students' experience better with education. And I just want to touch, is Jackie still there? So Jackie, you asked, and I think this is like one of the most exciting things for me is you were asking like what happens when the tech stops working in the classroom? Well, we have our virtual office. So this happens every year. The kids come back and they don't remember the password to their device. They would have to submit a ticket and wait for tech to reset that password, where with our model, the teacher lines them up in front of the Chromebook and the kid says, "Hi, this is my name. I forgot my password." And we say, "Okay, here's your new password," and off they go. So what would have taken a day, maybe in some cases, of time off learning, literally gets addressed that minute through the virtual office. And same thing when school's out of session and that kid's at home and something's not working, they can come in to our virtual office and we can't solve everything remotely, but we can solve a lot. So that's, I guess, to answer that question of that's what would happen. So that's actually an added service. So your existing team is still here. They're running around and now they're being freed up to spend more time on that. We call it tier 2 on-site support. So they get to take more time and building those relationships with teachers and making sure that the tech is getting done right, not feeling rushed, while we're handling that like password reset and the easy questions through the virtual office, but also improving the experience that the teacher and student
Yeah,
has.
that definitely sounds like an improvement. It's good. Thank you for your candor.
All right.
Questions
So-
answered?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna make a motion to put it on the floor anyway, and with, to support the recommendation from the superintendent for option, proposal number 2. So I'll recommend that to the board.
I'll second it.
I think we have a motion from Leon and a second from Scott.
Scott? I'll second it. Great.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of proposal number 2, User IT, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
And I do have Dina here, ask Dina to attend if there was any, Dina's going to review and get a contract ready for the chair to sign, correct, Dina? Good evening.
Good evening. I almost said good morning. Yes, we'll be getting a contract out.
Which will
Adam and
basically,
I are gonna be talking about some stuff.
so I, with the motion include, authorize the chair to sign the contract.
I would amend that. I mean, that would be normally this, what takes place anyway, in terms of having the
Right,
chair.
I guess it, right, we don't need that, you're right, you voted and passed it, so, but I didn't know if anyone had any questions for Dina, so I asked her if she could pop in.
Sounds like proposal number 2 has been approved.
All right,
Okay.
thank you all, and I hope that this is great things to come, so.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, guys.
Anything else, Jim?
No, that's it, thank you.
As far as the chair's report goes.
I got another question. I got a question for Jim before you go on something else, and it's for the finance. There is a statewide software package that we're supposed to be using all over the place for finance.
Yes,
And I was supposed to ask the question is how well is that working in our SU?
I'm gonna drop my mask so you can see me smile. So, we have Renee Gordon here, who I think can answer that question better than I can on what she thinks of the state software package.
Okay.
How many times have you walked into my office and I'm tearing my hair out? It has been challenging, to say the least. Support has been mediocre. I mean, the support that they have is tremendous, but the way that they rolled it out was lacking. And the software itself is actually, from my perspective, a pretty significant step backwards from where we were before. So we put a survey.
The
we
history,
answered a
Leon, is
survey.
the
I'm sorry?
software that we were using before, supposedly almost 80% of the state was using, but when the state went out for request for proposal, that's not who won and or who they selected. So even though we were very happy with what, but they want a statewide system so that they can gather data. I understand that, but it's not the software package we would have preferred. We were happy with what we had, but we couldn't use it anymore.
So we'll be want to be, I mean, because of all the issues, the school board position then would be to have that system reworked or withdrawn and something else come into place.
I mean, the agency is working, very diligently with Power School to, have upgrades to the system and enhancements made. But it's not happening fast enough. I mean, we have problems with bank reconciliations. I can't pull a trial balance that matches a trial balance. It's severely, it's lacking. And I think that Bill Bates, the CFO of the agency, reported to the legislature recently. There was a a survey that VASBO, the Vermont Association of School Business Officials, put out for those of us that have been live on the system. And I shared it with everybody here, our end users, and unanimously, everybody voted that if we could change, we would.
Okay, that's what
You
I
have
need
it,
to
Leo.
know. Thank
If
you.
we could change, we would. I think that sums it all up.
That's a recommendation.
Yeah. Thank you, Renee.
Okay. Jayla in the past has worked with Nick to work up retirement letters highlighting Frank Barnes' contributions to the organization would be a good thing as he departs. If we could continue that process.
It'll be Katie West with, like, Nick will provide the information, but Katie West does the background information for Jayla to write the letter. So we'll use Katie West also. So you would like the board to have a letter?
I think the board's practice recently has been to do that.
Yep.
Yeah. And the other thing is I contacted Amy and she's working out dates for two committees. One to discuss the sub issues, the sub payment issues. And the other one is the evaluation of the superintendent. So we're waiting for dates that work for those committees. And then we'll notify all those folks and move forward from there. And that's all I have to say. Is there other business to be brought before this board? Jackie?
Yes, in light of the fact that teachers continually have to wear masks in the classroom, I did a little research on my part and found a new device. Well, it's not a new device. I'm sure many people recognize it, but it's called a mask bracket. And they're about $1 or $1.50 a piece, and it fits inside. I hope you can see that it fits inside your mask. So there's the mask and here's the inside, and it goes over your face, but it allows you to speak better and breathe better. And so I was wondering if the board could see spending a little extra money this year and issuing mask brackets to those who would like them, if we could purchase them and issue them to people who want to wear that.
I think we can put that on the agenda for another meeting, but it hasn't been warned as an item to vote
Yes,
on.
I understand.
But Jackie, if you have any information on where you bought it and anything, feel free to email it to me so I can look at it and maybe we'll put it together.
Amazon.
Thank you,
And
Jackie.
I will send it to you. Mhm.
Thank you.
There was another.
Leon had his hand up.
Well, I had my hand up, but this is going back into last year. This is the North Bennington one where there was a question, a comment about the equity distribution of funds under the from the finance area. And we were going to take a look at that in details as we brought on Arlington and other school areas so that we'll make sure each district was clearly understanding where their funding, their cost is coming from. I think that's the way I got it. That's Ray can probably better say that more than I can, but I didn't want that to get
I finally
drop.
understand where you're going. Yes. What about it? We should do it, and we should have, I don't know whether we need for me to just make a proposal or whether we have a committee, a subcommittee of this board. I'm not sure. The subcommittee, would almost be as big as the board. That's
Right. I just thought that last year we said that we were going to look at, we were understanding what was your questions and things that were being asked and so forth.
Yep.
And we said that we wanted to make sure we just thoroughly understand it, a look at it, at the finance of this board and how it relates to other districts as well.
Seems like it should be a topic for the next meeting.
And we do have a finance committee that consists of Matt Bykowski, Ray, Jayla, and myself.
We could do it there.
Yeah. 'Cause I mean,
You want to have a meeting.
If I were to,
Before, a meeting before budget season would be good,
Right.
because that's the,
it's almost too late if we wait till budget
yeah,
season.
that's right. It's
Well-
way too late.
if I was to contact Amy and say, I need yet another date
Yep.
for a meeting of this committee, would that be
Yep.
acceptable to
Yep.
those folks?
Yeah.
And anyone else who wants to join, really, but
And I would be happy to look at material I produced before. I sent a letter out last year,
Yeah.
which laid out my position. I can see if I need to improve upon it somewhere. And it really should have someone from Sandgate involved, because they're the other non-operating district.
I will,
But I haven't noticed that they've sent a member to this meeting, so.
they haven't so far, but I will make an effort to reach out to them and Amy and get something cooking here. Any other-
Celeste Keel would be the Sandgate representative.
Sorry?
Celeste Keel is the Sandgate
Yes,
representative,
She's the one I've emailed up to this point, but
right?
with no response. So I will do that again.
But I thank Leon for bringing that forward. Thank you, Leon.
Bill
Any
can
other
probably
issues?
help make that contact.
Yeah, Nicole, I'll get on it.
Thank you. Otherwise, for your information, the budget status report was included in the packet. Student enrollment for August was included. And if there's no other business, could we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Fran, second by Ray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No abstentions.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
folks.